Two great 4G devices, but as you know, only one can be the champion in a phone dogfight. How's it going, guys? Aaron from PhoneDog.com here, and I have two 4G devices from two carriers, the HTC EVO 3D and the Samsung DROID Charge. The flagship Droid, arguably, on Verizon's network goes up against the flagship Android device that's 3D to boot on Sprint. So you have the EVO 3D over here, Android 2.3, HTC Sense 3.0, 1.2 gigahertz dual-core processor, and then you have this bad boy. While it only has a single-core processor and still running Android 2.2, it has Verizon's very, very fast 4G. Which one's the best? Which one's going to come out on top? We'll find out in the dogfight. First, special thanks to our buddies at Best Buy. They hook us up with so many phones that we give to you in the One Paw Bandit game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile to get either of these, you won't deal with rebates. You'll walk out without any messy paperwork, anything like that. Enough of that. Which one's the best? Is it the DROID Charge? Is it the EVO 3D? We're going to find that out in the dogfight, which starts right now. You know, I'll tell you, I say this all the time, but the smartphone battle is just getting hotter and hotter and hotter. That's because there are a lot of awesome phones out there, and it's becoming harder and harder to make a choice between them. You just have to decide which features are best for you. That said, it's a dogfight, so somebody has to win. Here we have the HTC EVO 3D. It's Sprint's newest flagship device. Came out a couple of weeks ago, and it's $199.99 with a 2-year agreement. Now this baby has some great specs, 1.2 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon processor, 4.3-inch QHD display with 540 by 960 pixels, dual 5-megapixel cameras on the back to shoot that 3D content, and it shoots 720p HD video in 2D and in 3D, and it has this little nifty toggle over here so you can switch between 2D and 3D content, as well as a physical camera button. Then you have the front-facing camera up here as well, and it's running Android 2.3 with HTC Sense 3.0. So in terms of the software, it's up to date. In terms of the hardware, it's up to date, and it's doing 3D as well. So it's the first US smartphone to ship with 3D, and it's coming right before the LG Thrill 4G, which is scheduled to be launched either this month or next month on AT&T. Then you have the Samsung DROID Charge over here, arguably the flagship Droid device in Verizon's lineup. You can either look at this or you can look at the HTC Thunderbolt and call one of those the flagship devices. But you know, I would say by specs, I think the DROID Charge is definitely there. 1 gigahertz Hummingbird processor. It's a single core processor. That same processor that you remember from the original Galaxy S line, the Epic, the Fascinate, the Vibrant, and then the, which one am I forgetting? Fascinate, Vibrant, Epic 4G, Captivate on AT&T. So the original, it's the same processor as that found in the original 4 devices. And then you have a 4.3-inch display, Super AMOLED Plus display, 8-megapixel camera on the back with a flash, shoots 720p HD video, and Android 2.2 with Samsung's TouchWiz user interface. Now this is TouchWiz version 3 as well, and you have the front-facing camera. Also, it's running Verizon's 4G LTE, which is what makes it such a hot device on Verizon. So if you're on Verizon, a couple of benefits here. Super AMOLED Plus display, absolutely gorgeous in the looks department, and then you have that 4G capability. Now on the left side, you can see, just to talk through some of the design stuff here, you can see the difference between the two devices. You've got the EVO 3D, which is a little bit taller. Actually, it's not. I stand corrected. With the hump, the DROID Charge is a little bit taller, but you can see here just on the left side, micro USB charging port, capacitive buttons down there at the bottom. And over here, like I said, you have your 2D, 3D toggle, so when you're taking a picture, you can easily swap back and forth. And then you have your camera shortcut button, which if you know me and you watch my videos, you know how much I love camera shortcut buttons. You have your volume rocker up here, 3.5mm headphone jack power button, then your camera on the back with this nice red ring, red accent around it. So you have a 1,730 milliamp hour battery in the back. And one thing I like about the design, and you know, deviate from the battery here for a second. On the original EVO, and I don't have it on my desk, I don't think, or I'd show you. Let me see. Actually, yeah, I do. Here it is. You can see on the original EVO, one thing I didn't like was the way the battery cover didn't go around the device. So you can see the battery cover actually pops on right here, and as a result, it was very flimsy in the middle. It was easy when you holding the phone, you could feel the battery door get a little bit wobbly. Not the case here. It wraps all the way around the device, and it becomes an integral part of the side of the device, which makes it feel a little bit more sturdy. And also you have this metal faceplate as well to give it a sturdy feel. Now this one's a little bit taller and a little bit narrower than the original EVO 4G. The display is higher resolution, and because it's taller and narrower and the display is a little bit taller, it's easier to hold in the hand. Very easy to hold, and you know, when you're holding it up to your ear, it reaches your mouth a little bit better in terms of the earpiece. Now this one a little bit fatter, a little bit, you know, more reminiscent of the EVO 4G, but this display is absolutely gorgeous. On the left side, you have your volume rocker, micro USB charging port, and you have that typical Samsung hump that we know and love, or you know and hate, one of the two. down there in the bottom. 3.5mm headphone jack over here, power button on the right side with an HDMI port there as well, and then, like I said, your camera on the back. So on this one, and I'll show you here so you can see, you have a 1,600 milliamp hour battery here. Now, interestingly enough, not to get into the battery wars just yet, I'll talk about that a little later in the video, but to spoil it a bit, the battery life has been better on the DROID Charge than on the EVO 3D, and actually pretty substantially, or substantially better than the EVO 3D. You look at this, I was having trouble making it through a day with moderate use, with light to moderate use on this device, mostly due to the GPS functionality. When you turn it on, you have the ability to display weather like it's doing right now, little things that suck the battery like that. 3D, even though I wasn't using it that much, is also a big battery suck as well. This lasts through the day for me. I use this actually as my personal device for a couple of weeks. I did with the EVO 3D as well, and was able to make it through the day with one charge, with moderate use. So that was pretty impressive. If you're looking for a battery life device, you're deciding on battery life alone, the DROID Charge is your device. Now, if you're looking at design, I think this one's a better design. I think it's built well, and you may like the metal accents on this device and just overall the way it looks and the way it feels in the hand. As I said over here, HTC Sense 3.0 running atop Android 2.3, so it's running the latest build of Android that's really available. I mean, Ice Cream Sandwich has been announced, but isn't available just yet. And it's running Sense 3.0, which is HTC's newest overlay, and you can see some of the differences in comparison to something like a Thunderbolt or an Inspire 4G or a Droid Incredible 2, which we'll get into in just a second. Then over here you have Android 2.2, so it's running a little bit of an older version of Android, but it's running TouchWiz 3.0, so it's not the newest on either front. They've launched TouchWiz 4.0 on the Galaxy S2, and then they've launched Google's launched Android 2.3. They did that some time ago, so it's a little bit behind the software department over here. And then of course Samsung has a very interesting track record when it comes to updating software. So those that are looking for the latest and the greatest in terms of software, HTC has a great track record when it comes to updating between, be it basic software updates all the way up to Android platform updates between like 2.2, 2.3, or when the time comes, 2.3 to 2.4. Now just and you can go into the individual review videos if you want to see more in-depth looks at TouchWiz 3.0 and Sense 3.0, but I do want to cover some of the highlights here and just show you some of the stuff, like what you get out of the box. You get 3D games over here, you get a bunch of HTC stuff like car panel, connected media, HTC's FriendStream, which serves as a social aggregation software, which brings in your Facebook, your MySpace, your Twitter feed, and puts those all in one place so it's easy to interact and respond. Then you have HTC Hub and HTC Likes. Now this is something Verizon pulled out of the Thunderbolt, but it is on the Inspire 4G, it's on the EVO 3D, and it's something I really like. Basically, it gives you access to HTCSense.com, which in turn gives you the ability to download wallpapers, ringtones, extra things like that for your device, because they're all about customization, and you'll see a lot of different customization options in Sense 3.0, actually that started in 2.0, but have carried over to 3.0, but it's nice to see that included on the device. NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile, and then you can see down here, Spider-Man 3D, Sprint Hotspot, Sprint Mobile Wallet, Radio, TV and Movies, Sprint Zone, the Green Hornet 3D. So you do get a full movie pre-installed on this for free, the Green Hornet 3D. You do have to register for an HTC Watch account though in order to access that. You get visual voicemail, which is included with your Everything plan, your Simply Everything plan on Sprint, and that's what you get out of the box. Now you have this little convenient thing down here where you can see frequently used applications and downloaded. That's something that's new to Sense 3.0, and then also you can scroll down. Actually, it's new. I shouldn't say that. It's new to Sense 2.1, which is what you saw on the Incredible 2, but it's also carried over to 3.0. Now, this is something interesting as well, and something that's relatively new. You can see this looks the same up here for the most part. You can see, this has been present since Sense 2.0, where you can scroll through the individual applications that you've opened recently, but you'll see down here notifications and quick settings as well. I can scroll over to quick settings, I can access Wi-Fi, Sprint Hotspot, mobile network, etc., and I can do all of that from the device or from the notifications bar itself. I don't have to go way down into the settings menu and try and find that stuff, etc. But the one thing I really do like, you can see here, HTC has a built-in task manager. Now there's this big hubbub going on in the Android community as to whether task managers are good for your device, they're bad for your device, whatever. And I'm not going to take a side on that in the video, but what I will tell you is that a company sponsored, if you will, task managers pre-installed on this, so I can safely kill those applications and hit refresh, and it clears up the various the memory. So now I have 383 megabytes of memory for free. This has 1 gigabyte of memory, and you can see here, actually I didn't mean to do that, but now that I'm doing it, you can see the new carousel animation, which is present in Sense 3.0. And then just to show you in comparison, look at this this Droid Incredible here I happen to have on my desk and you can see just the difference between the animation, how it scrolls back and forth there between the two, as opposed to this, how it brings up this kind of carousel looking animation. You can see when it scrolls, when you scroll very slowly from one to the other, you can see these cool little animations like a little wheel around the clock. So they've really done a good job. You can see all the various P's. So when it comes to animation, they've done a great job of preserving that on both this and on the Sensation 4G on T-Mobile, which also is running HTC Sense 3.0. Now this is something, again, that launched with Sense 2.0, but now that 3.0 is out, they really they've enhanced it and improved it. I like the personalization options. You can see what stock Android looks like, and this is something that TouchWiz didn't change, or Samsung didn't change with TouchWiz. When you have a stock Android device, or you have TouchWiz 3.0, which they did change this in 4.0, but you'll see this pop up where it says add to home screen. You can click on widgets, shortcuts, folders, or wallpapers, and you can add that various stuff to the home screen. HTC takes it about 7 steps further with their own personalization menu. You can change the scene, you can change the skin, which I like a lot. You can change it from, let's say, that to blue sky, and it'll look the same when I finish applying it, but what you'll notice is that I have a blue color accent as opposed to the stock HTC black color accent. So you can see here, for example, messages, and now you can see that in all messages it's blue there instead, and over here as well you can see some blue accents. Let me find some more for you. There, all messages, and then some of the applications as well. When you load up all apps, you can see that's turned blue as well. So that's a cool personalization option. You have the ability to change that, and you can download additional skins from HTCSense.com, which is what I mentioned a bit earlier. Then you have the lock screen as well, and you can change the lock screen from weather. You have a couple of different options here. You can change it to your photo album, you can change it to friend stream, weather, stocks, and clock. And what happens is when you apply that, you can also change these little shortcuts. So when you turn the device off and back on, you have access to your 4 most used applications. So I can either scroll up and unlock the screen, or I can bring down, let's say, messages, for example, and pop it up like that. So a couple of different options. A lot, great to have that personalization. You don't get that over here as much. You have 7 home screens, and you have very similar functionality in a lot of ways. You can pinch on both of these and bring up all 7 of your home screens, but you can just see the speed difference in a lot of ways between the dual core and the single core device. As much as I like the DROID Charge, you can see that the EVO 3D is a little bit faster in that department. But you have 7 home screens here, and Samsung, HTC has always done a great job with the widgets. You can see they have HTC custom widgets, and you can get additional ones through HTCSense.com. But just clicking on calendar, for example, you can see there are 3 calendar widgets. HTC gives a ton of personalization. You can do a month widget, you can do an agenda widget, or you can do a day widget, however you want to, whereas with this, it gives all the stock Android widgets, and wait for it to load up. And you can see that's just a little bit slow, in my opinion, for a flagship device. So there's a little bit of lag from time to time. But feeds and updates, that's a Samsung thing. Dual clock, that's a Samsung thing. A couple of different ones in here. Program monitor. You have TuneWiki, WeatherBug clock, etc. Those are all Samsung pre-installed, but the rest are Android. There aren't really a ton of options here. You open up Calendar, for example, and you can see it's a stock Android calendar application. So it's pretty bland there in the widget department, whereas HTC does do a good job. So if personalization's your thing, the HTC EVO 3D is going to be the one to get.